Welcome back to At One Insight World, your go-to channel for geopolitics insights. Today, we're diving into the 100-Year Marathon by Michael Pillsbury, a gripping expose on China's secret plan to replace America as the world's superpower by 2049. Published in 2015, this book remains strikingly relevant in 2025 as tensions between the U.S. and China dominate global headlines. Michael Pillsbury, a former U.S. government advisor and China expert with decades of experience at the Pentagon and think tanks like the Hudson Institute, reveals how China has been playing a long game to outmaneuver the West. In this 20-minute audiobook summary, we'll uncover China's hidden strategies, its impact on regions like the Middle East, and what it means for the future of global power. Let's unravel this marathon together. Let's start with the core of Pillsbury's argument. China has been deceiving the West for decades. In the 1970s, when Pillsbury first started working on U.S.-China policy, he was part of a group of American experts known as China Doves, those who believed China was a struggling nation in need of support to modernize. The U.S. opened its doors, offering trade deals, technology transfers, and even military assistance, thinking China would become a democratic partner. But Pillsbury, after years of research and access to Chinese defectors, realized he'd been wrong. China wasn't a helpless ally. It was running a marathon, a century-long plan to reclaim its historical dominance as the Middle Kingdom, the center of the world. This plan, which began under Mao Zedong in 1949, aims to make China the global superpower by the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic in 2049. Pillsbury calls this the 100-Year Marathon, a strategy so secretive that even China's own citizens are often unaware of its full scope. How did China pull off this deception? Pillsbury explains that China mastered the art of playing weak while growing strong, a tactic rooted in ancient Chinese strategy from the Warring States period, over 2,000 years ago. During that era, rival states used deception, espionage, and patience to outmaneuver stronger enemies. China's leaders, from Mao to Xi Jinping, adopted this playbook. For example, in the 1980s and 1990s, China convinced the U.S. that it was a poor, developing nation, incapable of challenging the West. This led to policies like granting China access to the World Trade Organization in 2001, which fueled its economic boom. Meanwhile, China was quietly building its military, stealing technology, and expanding its influence. Pillsbury shares a chilling revelation. Chinese hawks, known as Ing Pai, had been advocating for this strategy all along, but they hid their intentions from the West, presenting a friendly face while plotting to overtake America. By the time the U.S. realized China's true ambitions, it was too late. China had already become an economic and military giant. What are the strategies driving China's marathon? Pillsbury identifies several key tactics, which he calls the 9 principles of China's plan. First, China focuses on economic dominance. It has used state-controlled companies to control global supply chains, like rare earth minerals, which are critical for everything from smartphones to missiles. In 2025, we've seen this play out with China's dominance in electric vehicle batteries, giving it leverage over Western economies. Second, China steals technology to leapfrog ahead. Pillsbury cites examples like the theft of U.S. military designs, such as the F-35 fighter jet, through cyber espionage, a tactic that echoes concerns in battlefield cyber, which we'll explore in our next video. Third, China uses soft power to win allies, especially through the Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure project that's extended China's influence across Asia, Africa, and even the Middle East. By 2025, this initiative has built ports, railways, and highways in over 140 countries, creating a network of economic dependency on China. This brings us to the Middle East, a region we've covered extensively on At One Insight World. China's growing presence here is a direct result of its marathon strategy, and it's reshaping the geopolitical landscape. Take Iran, for example. In our previous discussions, we've seen how Iran's nuclear ambitions have strained its relations with the U.S. and Israel. China has capitalized on this, becoming Iran's largest trading partner and a key buyer of its oil. even amidst Western sanctions. The Belt and Road Initiative includes projects in Iran, like the Chabahar port, which give China access to the Persian Gulf, a strategic choke point we discussed in Prisoners of Geography. Pillsbury argues that China's goal isn't just economic. It's to weaken U.S. influence in the region. By supporting Iran, China ensures that the U.S. remains distracted by Middle East conflicts, unable to focus fully on countering China's rise. This strategy has paid off. In 2025, as U.S.-Iran nuclear talks falter, China has stepped in as a mediator, hosting talks in Beijing and positioning itself as a neutral power, all while advancing its own interests. But China's influence in the Middle East doesn't stop with Iran. Pillsbury notes that China has also courted U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, offering them infrastructure deals and military technology, like drones, that the U.S. has been reluctant to provide. This has created a dilemma for Washington. Its allies are increasingly turning to China for support, weakening the U.S.-led order in the region. For example, Saudi Arabia signed a $10 billion deal with China in 2024 to build a refinery, part of the Belt and Road Framework, according to a recent ex-post by a China state media. Pillsbury warns that this is part of China's broader plan to divide and conquer. By peeling away U.S. allies, China reduces America's global influence, making it easier to challenge the U.S. on the world stage. In the Middle East, where energy resources and strategic waterways like the Strait of Hormuz are critical, China's growing footprint is a game-changer, one that directly impacts the power dynamics we've explored in our videos on Iran and Israel. What does the future hold if China's marathon succeeds? Pillsbury paints a sobering picture. By 2049, China aims to dominate not just economically, but also militarily and culturally. It wants to control global institutions like the United Nations, set the rules for trade and technology, and even replace the US dollar with the yuan as the world's reserve currency. This would give China unprecedented power to shape the international order in its image, an order that prioritizes authoritarian control over democratic values. In the Middle East, a China-led order could mean less U.S. influence, more support for regimes like Iran, and a diminished role for Israel and its allies. Pillsbury cites Chinese military writings that call for a new world order, where the U.S. is no longer the hegemon, a vision that's already taking shape with China's alliances in regions like the Middle East and Africa. But Pillsbury doesn't just sound the alarm. He offers solutions. He urges the U.S. to wake up to China's strategy and take action. First, America must strengthen its alliances, especially in regions like the Middle East, to counter China's influence. This means doubling down on support for countries like Saudi Arabia and Israel, even as they flirt with Chinese deals. Second, the U.S. needs to protect its technology, cracking down on cyber theft and investing in innovation to stay ahead. Third, Pillsbury calls for a new generation of China experts, people who understand the language, culture, and history of China, much like he did during his years advising the U.S. government. Without these steps, Pillsbury warns, the U.S. risks losing the marathon, leaving China to dominate the 21st century. Let's wrap up. The 100-Year Marathon by Michael Pillsbury is a wake-up call about China's long game to overtake the U.S. as the global superpower. From deceiving the West to building influence in the Middle East, China's strategies are reshaping the world we live in. As we've seen in 2025, with China's growing role in places like Iran and Saudi Arabia, this marathon is far from over. It's accelerating. Thanks for joining us on At One Insight World for this audiobook summary. If you found this eye-opening, grab a copy of the 100-Year Marathon to dive deeper into China's plans. What do you think? Can the U.S. stop China's rise, or is the marathon already won? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more geopolitics content. We'll be covering Battlefield Cyber next, so stay tuned.